जय भारत जननीय तनुजाते, जय हे कर्नाटक माते. So said our Rashtrakavi Kuvempu. We are organizing this lecture series on behalf of Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara. Initially, in the year 2005, Government of Karnataka under the Department of Kannada and Culture established an academy for translation works from Kannada into other languages and from other languages into Kannada, and to promote translation work by giving training to young translators, by organizing seminars, conferences about the literature of various languages, and such other activities. Later in the year 2009, the same academy, Translation Academy in Karnataka, was renamed after Rashtrakavi Kuvempu. So the new name came into existence after 2009, that is Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara. Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara, as we all know, has already published more than 460 books. Most of the books are translated books, translations from English and other Indian languages, and it has a few translations from Kannada into other languages also. For example, Radhikara translated Kuvempu's works into all the 22 languages of 8th schedule. Uh, it also has translated some other works of Kannada literature into English. Lankesh reader is there in English. Some other such books are also there in English, which were originally Kannada works. Uh, some of the other languages are also translated into Kannada. For example, this year we have Assami poems in Kannada, and D.V. Gundappa's Kannada Mankutimana Kagga has recently gone into Telugu. The same way, Kagga is also available in Konkani also now. The Pradhikara has a very ambitious project, and it wants to connect Kannada with other languages, minor languages inside Karnataka, like Tulu, Kodava, uh, Karada, Sanketi, Havyaka, and some other such languages, some 12, 13 languages, including Kundapura Kannada, a variant of Kannada language. Uh, at least one of the works from these languages is being translated into Kannada, and at least one work from Kannada is being translated into such small minor languages. This is the intention of Pradhikara, because Pradhikara wants to promote the relation between Kannada and other languages, Kannada and English languages, and Kannada and other minor languages inside Karnataka. So we also have started a magazine, a periodical, which is triennial, once in 4 months. That is named, its title is Bhasha Bharati. Radhikara has been organizing various translation courses also. We have already completed uh, online translation course. We have organized one or two translation courses, add-on certificate courses in uh, colleges, various colleges. There have been many workshops in various colleges across the state. So, more than that, we have had a lot of webinars, especially during the last 1.5 years. So, this is also one of such webinars, rather a series of webinars, wherein we try to introduce some of the great uh, works from Kannada, some of the writers from Kannada. Kuvempu, as we all know, is not only a great Kannada writer, he is one of the major writers of India or a major Indian writer. As we all know, he is a Janapita Awardee. His response to modernity and the colonial rule is also very interesting. Uh, there are a lot of scope. There is a lot of scope to study his uh, writings in that dimension. Also, his rationalism, especially in his prose writing and in his speeches, is well known. The way he treated Indian Puranas, how he recreated Ramayana in his Ramayana Darshanam, all these are uh, very, very interesting to any student of literature, not only Kannada literature, any student of any literature. Kuvempu was greatly influenced by Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda's philosophy, and all such things. In fact, uh, a few months back, Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara organized a series wherein the scholars read out Kuvempu's writings. Kuvempu wrote in almost all the genre. He wrote stories, he wrote plays, novels, poetry, Mahakavya, autobiography, biography, and whatnot. So we had some 13 lectures continuously for 13 days, wherein Kuvempu literature was read out to the general public, and it was a great success. So today we have with us Dr. Satyavati Murthy, who is basically from Karnataka, Bengaluru, and who is in London, United Kingdom, for since last 25 years, almost 25 years. She is a PhD. In fact, she has a bachelor's degree in science. She is MA. She has completed her Hindi Visharada. As we all know, she is a good writer, orator. She is a recognized artist in Doordarshan and All India Radio. She has published 4 books, including her PhD thesis. She has also experience in teaching science and maths in schools. She is also awarded the Best Teacher Award. Her poems have won prizes in various competitions organized by various organizations and associations and newspapers and all. She has presented papers on various topics in many conferences related to literature and culture. Her Kannada articles and poems are published in reputed periodicals and newspapers such as Sudha, Mayura, Udayavani, Kannada Prabha, and so on. She writes regular columns in newspapers. She's a cultural ambassador of India in United Kingdom, we should say. Dr. Satyavati is very active in organizing literary events in the United Kingdom, in and around, especially in and around London. She was appointed Hindu prison minister by the UK government. Dr. Satyavati has also worked as an accountant and company secretary. She's retired from that now. Her name is also included in Reference Asia, Men and Women of Achievements. So I welcome Dr. Satyavati Murthy, uh, who is from a far off place but very near to us, uh, to talk on Kuvempu, Rashtrakavi Kuvempu. She will talk for about 35 to 40 minutes. I also welcome my friend, the member of Pradhikara, Professor A. Shanmuka, Registrar Ishwar Mirji, and all other members. More than that, and more importantly, I welcome all the viewers to this lecture by Dr. Satyavati Murthy. I welcome one and all. I request Dr. Satyavati to give her lecture. Welcome, Dr. Satyavati.
Thank you, Dr. Girish, for introducing me to viewers in a beautiful way. I'm sure even non-Kannadigas are familiar with some of Kuvempu's poems because of its national characteristics. You, Namaskar, viewers. Welcome to the lecture today. You all have already heard about great people like Rashtrakavi Govinda Pai, Panje Mangeshwar Rao, Masti Venkatesh Iyengar for past 3 days in the series of lectures arranged by Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara, and the 2 more days to go after today. It's a great job Pradhikara has undertaken. I'm sure it will help the non-Kannadiga people, those who are interested in literature, to read and to learn more about the great writers in Kannada and also about the rich language Kannada. The poet of the world, who would not bow his head? Who at sight of Ramayana would not fold his hands and bow his head? Thus spoke another Jnanapitha awardee, poet Bendre, Ambika Taniyadatta, about Kuvempu. Bendre expressed his admiration for Kuvempu. He reminded us how one has to respect the work of great literary and cultural merits. ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಇರು ಎಂತಾದರೂ ಇರು ಎಂದೆಂದಿಗೂ ನೀ ಕನ್ನಡವಾಗಿರು ಕನ್ನಡ ಗೋವಿನ ಓ ಮುದ್ದಿನ ಕರು ಕನ್ನಡತನ ಹೊಂದಿದ್ದರೆ ನೀನ್ ಅಮ್ಮಗೆ ಕಲ್ಪತರು. Be wherever you want. Be whatever you want. Be always a Kannadiga by heart. Oh blessed child of Kannada celestial mother, having an attitude for Kannada, you can always be for her, you can always be of her. Before I start my talk, I would like to thank Dr. Girish Ajjakala, President of Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara, for inviting me to talk about the Rashtrakavi, the Rasarushi, Jnanapitha Award winner, Kuppahalli Venkatappa Puttappa, known as Kuvempu. Talking about Kuvempu is like lighting a lamp before the sun to show his brightness. Kuvempu is a very big picture, and the frame I have is very small. It can hardly hold the picture. But still, I try my best to give a general idea or to introduce Kuvempu to the non-Kannadiga readers. My sincere thanks to Dr. K.C. Shivareddy for allowing me to use the English translation of Kuvempu's biography, jointly written by himself and Kuvempu's son, Sri Purnachandra Tejasvi. Kuvempu was born in Hirekudige, a village of Koppa Taluk in Chikmagalur district. Mother is Sitama and father Venkatappa Gowda. Early in his childhood, Kuvempu was homeschooled by an appointed teacher from South Canara. He joined the Anglo Vernacular School in Tirthalli, continued his middle school education. Kuvempu's father died at the age of 12 itself. He finished his lower secondary education in Kannada and English languages in Tirthalli and then moved to Mysore for further education. Manjappa Gowda, a well-wisher, supported Kuvempu to achieve this. Thereafter, he pursued college studies at the Maharaja College of Mysore and graduated in 1929, majoring in Kannada. Manjappa Gowda, who had charted Puttappa's gifted talent, introduced the poem A Psalm of Life of a noted American poet H.W. Longfellow. This was of great influence on Puttappa's life. It gave him a direction towards winning the pattern for his life. Here, I would like to read a few stanzas from that poem and also its summary, a psalm of life, an inspiring poem. The meaning of Psalm of Life is a song of life, where the poet glorifies life and its possibilities. It is an invocation to mankind to follow the path of righteousness, the right way to live this life. In the poem, Psalm of Life, the poet sees life from an optimistic outlook. To him, this life is full of possibilities as we can achieve higher and higher goals by making the full use of our time and by working hard, and of course, by keeping faith in the power and potential of life. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not that what they seem. The poet asks us not to tell him in sorrow verses that life is a hollow and a meaningless dream. He does not want us to break down the statistics, facts, and numbers of life in an attempt to make sense of it. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury, it is dead. Act. Act in the living present, heart within, and God overhead. Here, the poet instructs us not to trust the future, however pleasant it may seem, because we often get carried away by the happy dreams about our future and forget to act in the present. He also tells us to forget the past events as they are dead, and they should not haunt us anymore and affect our present action. And what is crucial is to act in the living present. We have to follow our heart and keep the faith in the God overhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. The lives of so many great and successful men remind us that we can also achieve those heights if we wish and strive for that. And if we can do that, we would be living forever in our works in the hearts of people. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. In the final 4 lines, A Psalm of Life, the poet Longfellow asks us to be up at once and start working. However, the poet here urges us not to mind the consequences or to make our mind prepared for any fate. We must carry on reaching great heights, still not leaving. We must learn to labor, to work hard, to act wisely, and wait for the rewards patiently. Although the poet conveys his message all over the poem, personally, I feel that the first 2 lines and the very last line of the poem are enough to give an impression of what this poem is all about. We should not spend our priceless moments sitting idly and doing nothing. Rather, we have to work hard towards reaching our goal and to make the most of this short life. After understanding this poem, now we know why Manjappa Gowda made Kuvempu to read this poem. This is not only an inspiration to Kuvempu, but anybody who want to do something and who want to achieve something in the life, it is an inspiration. This poem reminds me of what Bhagavan Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita in the chapter 2, verse number 47. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. As Puttappa claimed for himself, the poem was his childhood guru. It opened the eyes of his inner self. It created a new awareness in him, the one that we see exactly as in the poem. I assume, if not for this poem and for Mr. H. Cousins, we are going to know more about him later, we would not have seen Rashtrakavi Kuvempu in Kannada as we see him today. Important literary events in Puttappa's life occurred when he was in high school, second form. It created an impulse in him to write the poem Bommanahalli Kindari Jogi. Then his English master was teaching this poem, Pied Piper of Hamelin, to the class. He did not read the poem. He performed the sequences and explained the sections of English, charming the students. Pied Piper of Hamelin occupied Puttappa's poetic mind for its dancing rhythm and exquisite humor that made the children laugh so much. As a result, he wrote the poem Bommanahalli Kindari Jogi in the year 1928. But before this one, to begin with, Kuvempu started writing in English because he loved English language and the scope. Kuvempu's first English poem came into existence under a most non-poetic influence. One of his friends was finding it very hard to remember the dates and the events of the history. To help him, Kuvempu wrote all these information as a poem with rhythm and meter. The friend learnt it by heart and begged for more. Kuvempu says, I did it assuming as though I am an angel gifted with power for granting boons. Whatever it is, it laid the foundation for my writing poetry in English, he says. Kuvempu's first collection of English poems is called Beginner's Muse. It was published in 1922, followed by Alien Harp in 1973. Here is a sample of one stanza of his English poems. We walk the verdant earth with blindfold eyes. We walk the verdant earth with blindfold eyes. With the deafened ears we hear. The scented rose perfumes the breeze, but not allures the nose. The angels fair descend their heavenly skies. Puttappa received applause from his fellow students and teachers for the poems he always wrote in English. He was very happy. Puttappa continued to write in English. As he puts it, Wednesday, the 2nd July of 1924 was an unforgettable day in his literary life. Krishna Iyengar was former Vice-Chancellor of Bijendranath Sheel University, had taught him history at the Maharaja High School. He told Puttappa about James H. Cousins, which I mentioned earlier, an Irish poet he is, who had come to deliver special lectures. He asked him to meet Mr. Cousins and show his poems to him. The next day, Puttappa went to the guest house. where Mr. Cousins was staying and gave the manuscript. Mr. Cousins lived through the script. He raised his head to look at Kuvempu, who was clad in khaddar from head to toe, responding to the call of Swadeshi movement. The conversation between them, in the words of Puttappa, went on like this. Mr. Cousins spoke in a tone of displeasure. What is this stuff? He asked me. From tip to toe, you are clad in Swadeshi clothes, but this is not Swadeshi. Have you written anything in your own language? I was getting angry with him for his tone and style of talking to me. I felt disappointed and humiliated. I replied in a hearty manner, No, it is not possible to express deep thoughts and great ideas in Kannada as in English. Here we have to remember, we can understand that Kuvempu, although he was against the British imperialism, he liked the English language for its scope. That is apart. Mr. Cousins heard my words. The experienced and wise said to me in a soft, consoling voice, It's not so. No language is incapable of itself. In the hands of a capable one, your Kannada can work wonders. He gave the example of Rabindranath Tagore, who wrote in a new style in Bengali and invented new meters. Rabindranath Tagore got the Nobel Prize also. He also said, if I could invent new meters and write literature of a new kind, and if it is of great caliber, like Ravindra's literature, that can be translated into English. Great creative writing can come in the language that is yours by birth, he said. He said few more words of wisdom, returned the manuscript, and bade goodbye to me. I came out dejected and furious. Though my mind rejected the advice of Mr. Cousins in the foreground, luckily my inner self had accepted it. There was the blessing of the goddess of Kannada words. Using the opportunity, she lifted this child of hers. From then, Puttappa resolved to write in Kannada. As he said, it was a historic event. Puttappa already had written by that time Amalana Kathe, that is before he met Mr. Cousins. After that historical meeting, Puttappa wrote poetry in Kannada, but still influenced by the English literature. He subjected Kannada poetry to various experimentations. In the beginning days of his university education, Puttappa wrote the plays Jalagara, Yamanasolu, Beralge Kural, Smashana Kurukshetra, followed by Birugali, Maharatri, Shudra Tapasvi, Raktakshi, and others, the total being 11 plays. Kuvempu married Hemavati on 30th April 1937. His two sons are Purnachandra Tejasvi and Kokilodaya Chaitra, and two daughters, Indukala and Tarini. His home in Mysore is called Udayaravi. His son Purnachandra Tejasvi was a polymath, contributing significantly to Kannada literature, photography, calligraphy, digital imaging, social movements, and agriculture. Kuvempu began his academic career as a lecturer of Kannada language at Maharaja College in Mysore in 1929. He worked as an assistant professor in the Central College, Bangalore from 1936. He rejoined Maharaja's College in Mysore in 1946 as a professor. He went on to become the principal of the Maharaja's College in 1955. In 1956, he was selected as the Vice Chancellor of Mysore University, where he served till retirement in 1960. Kuvempu has some 23 Kavana Sankalanas, that is, collection of poems, to his credit. Kuvempu's first poetry collection, Kolalu, came out on January 7th, 1930. His very first poem is called Poovu. It is published in July 1928. ಮುಂಜಾನೆ ಮಂಜಿನೊಳು ಪಸುರಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆವಾಗ ಅಂಜಿಸುವ ಸಂಜೆಯೊಳು ಉಸಿರನ್ನು ಎಳೆವಾಗ ಎಲೆ ಪೂವೆ ಆಲಿಸುವೆ ನಾನಿನ್ನ ಗೀತೆಯನ್ನು ಎಲೆ ಪೂವೆ ಸೋಲಿಸುವೆ ನಾನಿನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯನ್ನು. The translated version of Poovu goes like this. Poovu means flower. Amidst the early morning dew, walking across the greenery, and in the evening that is scary, while taking a breath, oh flower, I listen to your song. Oh flower, I defeat your love. Poems like Aniketana, Bharata Jananiya Tanujate are also among the poems translated into English. O Nenna Chetana, Aguni Aniketana. Be unhoused, O my soul. Only the infinite be your goal. Leave those myriad forms behind. Leave the million names that bind. A flash will pierce your heart and mind and unhouse you, O my soul. Jaya he Karnataka Mate, Jaya Bharata Jananiya Tanujate, Jaya he Sundara Nadi Vanagala Nade, Jaya he Rasa Rushigala Bide. Victory to you, Mother Karnataka, the daughter of Mother India. Hail the land of beautiful rivers and forests. Hail the abode of saints and seers. Kuvempu wrote an autobiography, Nenapina Doniyalli, which has been the source of information for my today's talk. Sanyasi ಮತ್ತು ಇತರ ಕಥೆಗಳು and ನನ್ನ ದೇವರು ಮತ್ತು ಇತರ ಕಥೆಗಳು, which is a collection of stories. Essays like Malenadina Chitragalu. He has also contributed around 9 books towards literary criticism. His other works include biography, translation, and stories and poems for children, and story poems like Nagi. Somehow, the novel did not attract Kuvempu as much as the drama and poetry did. But when he read the works of Leo Tolstoy and Hardy, he made up his mind to write novels in Kannada. As a result of this determination, we see the two great novels appearing in Kannada. Kanuru Subbamma Heggaditi. Subbamma, third wife of Chandregowda, is a rebellious mistress of the household and encourages sporadic act of defiance against a man from among her women friends. When her husband dies, she uses her position of authority to avenge all the wrongs ever done by man to woman. Her actions end up destroying her, and her place is taken by a liberal intellectual, Huvaya. Kuvempu responded with anguish to the regional concerns. In the same way, he responded to national concerns as well. The second novel is Malegalalli Madumagalu. This novel is Kuvempu wrote this novel in 1967. Here, he discusses social and economic conditions prevailed in the late 19th century in Malnadu. The story revolves around characters of the then prevailing feudal system, Hegdes, that is landlords, and their serfs belonging to different castes and multiple locations with interlinking characters and their stories. It portrays the love between the protagonists, the risks they dare to take. Including the above two novels I mentioned, many of his books, like Jalagara, Kurukshetra, and other books, have already been translated into different languages, including English. Dr. Girish mentioned it in his speech when he was introducing Kuvempu. The highlight of Kuvempu's work is Ramayana Darshana, the great book for which Kuvempu was awarded Jnanapitha. The theme is the well-known story of Rama in Valmiki's Ramayana, transfigured in the poet's vision. Ramayana Darshana is a work in 4 cantos: Ayodhya Samputam, Kishkinda Samputam, Lanka Samputam, and Sri Samputam. These cantos are further divided into 50 parts that spread over more than 22,000 lines. Kuvempu used Sarala Ragale to write this book, and he took 9 whole years to complete this book. Between 1945 and 2000, Ramayana Darshanam saw 8 reprints. State government confirmed Pampa Award on him in 1990. Ramayana Darshanam is not a story of the history. It is neither a story retold. The original story of sage Valmiki is a frame for Kuvempu. The poem of Kuvempu is the soul that needed a body to stay. That soul chose Ramayana. The soul is describing present day cultural life. In the frame of the story, Parama Purushottama has taken the form of Rama for the cosmic play. This is what the work shows us. The work observes the collective consciousness of the East and the West, past and the present, and provides a vision for tomorrow. The vision of Samanvaya, Sarvodaya, and Purna Drishti appears across the poem. This is an epic poem. In Ramayana Darshana, Kuvempu has highlighted some characters which have gone unnoticed in Valmiki Ramayana. I would like to bring the following to your attention, especially those who have not read or cannot read Kannada Ramayana Darshanam, to understand the deviations Kuvempu brought in these characters and how he justifies them. We all have read about Manthare, Urmila, and also the Agni Pravesha scene of Sita. Kuvempu's Manthare is Mamatamai, the love-filled character, and Urmile is the other name for sacrifice. Kuvempu says, Manthare was brought to the palace by Kaikeyi's grandfather as she had no one to care. Here the poet says that the king brought her as though he is doing the puja to the spade to start the building. Look at the imagination, how beautiful it is. Kattaliha kabbakke modal guddaliya pujipul. Inviting the evil which was going on the road to enter into the house, and as though the fate is writing the preface for a very, very sad story. ದಾರಿಯ ನಡೆವ ಮಾರಿಯಂ ಮನೆಗೆ ತರುವಂತೆ ಮುಂದಣ ಮಹಾ ದುಃಖ ದಾವಾನಳಕ್ಕೆ ತನ್ನ ಕಿರುಗಜ್ಜದ ಒಂದೇ ಕಿಡಿಯ ಮುನ್ನುಡಿಯಿಡುವ ವಿಧಿ ವಿಲಾಸದಲ್ಲಿ he invited the trouble. She had a very ugly look, Manthare, and nobody liked her. But as and when she grew, she loved Kaikeyi more and more. And even Kaikeyi looked at her as she was the one who looked after her from the day she was born. ತನು ವಿಕಾರಂ ಪೆರ್ಚಿದಂತೆ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಮಮತೆ ನೂರ್ಮಡಿಸಿದತ್ತು ಕೈಕೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ. ಕೈಕೆಯುಂ ನರ ತಿರಸ್ಕೃತ ವಿಕೃತ ಆ ಮಂಥರ ದಾಸಿಯಂ ಶೈಶವ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತಾ ಪ್ರೇಮದಿಂ ಪ್ರೀತಿಸುತ್ತೆ ನೆರೆ ನೆರೆದಳಂಗಜನ ಹೊಸ ಮಸೆಯ ಹೊಳೆವ ಶೃಂಗಾರ ಶರಲಕ್ಷ್ಮಿಯೋಲ್. The time passed and Bharata was born. Manthare's love increased and she looked after Bharata as a miser, taking care of his gold. The poet says, her affection put even the mother Kaikeyi to shame. Because of this affection, she wanted Bharata to get the crown and not that she hated Rama. ಇರುತ್ತಲಿರೆ ಬೆಸಲೆಯಾದಳ್ ಕೈಕೆ ಭರತನಂ ಮಂಥರೆಗೆ ಮೂರನೆಯ ಮೂಡಿದಂತಾಯ್ತು ಬಾಳೊಂದು ಪೊಸವಲ್ಮೆ ಚೆಂದಳಿರ್ ಚಿಗುರಿದುದು ತಾನಂದಿನಿಂ ಬಾಳ್ಗೊಂದು ಪೊಸವಲ್ಮೆ ಚೆಂದಳಿರ್ ಚಿಗುರಿದುದು ತಾನಂದಿನಿಂ ಜಿಪುಣ ಬಡವಂ ಕಡವರವನ್ ಅಪ್ಪಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತೆ ಹಗಲಿರುಳ್ ಕೈಕೆಯ ತನೂಜನಂ ಸಲಹಿದಳ್ ಆ ದಸ್ಯು ಸತಿ ಹಡೆದ ತಾಯಿಯೇ ನಾಂಚು ಓಲಂತೆ. She could not digest, Manthare could not digest the fact that the most loved Bharata and Kaikeyi are not getting the crown or the and the Rajmata title. This is the reason why she encouraged Kaikeyi and made her to think that her son deserves the crown. According to Kuvempu, it had to happen to bring Rama, Paramapurushottama, to light. So in the following way, he expresses that. ಕಡೆಯದಲೆ ಕೇಳ್ ಬೆಣ್ಣೆ ಹುಮ್ಮುವುದೇ ಮೂಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದುವೆ ಮಹಾರತ್ನಗಳ್ ಪೇಳ್ ಮಥಿಸದಿರೆ ಮಂಥರೆಯ ವಾಸುಕಿ ಮಹಾ ಮಮತೆ ತಾಂ ಕೈಕೆ ಮಂದರದಿಂದ ಮಾತ್ರೇತಾ ಸಮುದ್ರಮಂ. The poet says, without churning the yogurt, one cannot get the butter. In Purana, Vasuki, the Adishesha, was used as the rope to churn the Kshira Samudra, with Mandara Parvata as the churning rod. But in Ramayana Darshana, Manthare's love has become the Vasuki, that is the churning rope. And Kaikeyi has become the Mandara Parvata, that is the churning rod. And the Treta Yuga itself has become the ocean. Look at the comparison. Look at the beauty in the statement. Coming to Urmila, that is Lakshmana's life. Sati Shiromani Urmila Devi Pranesha Lakshmanam Rama Sitayorane Ayodhyayam Bittandu Tottu Sarayu Nadiya Tirodol Paranakutiyam Rachisi Chira Tapasviniyagi Kattidal Chitta Pomangalada Rakshayam Maithilige Ramange Main Tannineya Devange. in Valmiki's Ramayana, we do not read much about this character, Urmila. Although Urmila was in the palace, she lived like a saint until Lakshmana, her husband, came back from the forest with Rama and Sita. Sita was with her husband, and therefore it was not difficult for her to live even in the forest. Whereas Urmila was not with her husband, and moreover, she was living in the palace. She was following the way of life Lakshmana led in the forest. This is very difficult. Having everything in front of her, it was not easy to live like a saint. Always prayed for Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana to come back safely. And one more the scene, that is Agni Pravesha, that also has got a deviation from Valmiki's Ramayana. Agni Pravesha, the fire ordeal it is. At Sita's command, Lakshmana makes a pyre for her, and Sita mounts it. It is at this point that Kuvempu makes a startling deviation from Valmiki. The moment Sita offered herself as supreme oblation to Agni, Rama too rushes after her and enters the blazing flames. Much to the shock of all earthly spectators. In a moment, however, Rama comes out of the fire holding Sita's palm in his right hand, and the spectators get a glimpse of their divinity. By this sensational innovation, Kuvempu has proclaimed the great principle of the supremacy of the law and the equality of all before the law, not excluding the lawgiver himself. What is more, if this Agni Pravesha is intended to reveal to the world the truth of Sita's chastity, it is also intended to reveal Rama's fidelity and love to Sita. After this, Kuvempu wrote another near epic poem, Chitrangada. I think it is before he wrote the Ramayana Darshanam, he wrote the epic Chitrangada. In the year 2000, Kannada University, Hampi, published complete works of poetry of Kuvempu in 2 volumes. Throughout 20th century, Kuvempu was honored with several awards, both at the state and national level. Sahitya Akademi Award for Ramayana Darshanam in 1955, Padma Bhushana Award from central government in 1958, Rashtrakavi Award in 1964, Jnanapitha for Ramayana Darshanam in 67, Pampa Award in 1988, Karnataka Ratna Award in 1992, and many more. Many awards and the honors were offered to him as a token of respect for his excellence. I would like to bring my talk to a conclusion by giving a funny instance in Kuvempu's life. No great men are born great. Everybody will have a childhood. And I would like to read this instance, quote this instance, to understand how Puttappa was in his childhood. Kuvempu left behind his memories that include some fascinating accounts of his childhood. One of them describes how Puttappa got rid of his Rotti Rahu. Rahu means one of the planets Rahu, Ketu. Puttappa was well before others when it came to eating rotis. In Hindi, they call it roti. In Kannada, we call it roti. Among all children, he always asked for more rotis. All mothers in the family hatched a plan to teach him a lesson. Puttappa had too much confidence in his capacity to consume. Quite unaware of the plans of the mothers, he took a challenge that he would eat a dozen of rotis. The time and day were set for the show. It would be the next day afternoon at the coffee time. Puttappa eagerly waited for the tomorrow and the afternoon coffee time to come. Tomorrow came. Without any plans for the afternoon event, as usual, Puttappa had his coffee, morning breakfast, and the full afternoon lunch. In the afternoon, mothers called all children in and gave them roti and with the chutney and ghee as usual. They laid a wooden seat for Puttappa, spread a large plantain leaf, and served 12 rotis. In that, with a big lump of ghee and a small heap of chutney. Puttappa never had an iota of doubt about his victory. He set out to the battle with bubbling self-confidence. Before I continue, I would like to say one thing. The viewers, imagine your child or the grandchild, the small one, sitting and asking for more and more roti and having this test. Puttappa began to devour roti with a lavish serving of ghee and chutney. Before he finished a quarter of one roti, he called for coffee and got it. A mother there warned him not to eat so much of chutney as it would make him drink more water. Puttappa suspected that they were trying to fool him. Heedless, he had some more ghee and chutney served. Before he had finished only one roti, his face turned pale. The stomach refused to take in any more. There were still 11 more rotis over the large plantain leaf. His mother watched the helplessness on the face of Puttappa as she continued to bake rotis. She took the stick she had kept in her reach and beat that on the ground and warned him not to try to run away leaving anything. Why did you serve so much of ghee and chutney? Did I tell you that I would eat all of them? Puttappa protested. You have asked for it. Did I not tell you not to eat them so much? The other mother teased him. Unwilling to accept the defeat, he started eating again. But when he finished a one half more, he began to feel that his jaws, tongue, and the stomach are too tired to continue with the campaign. And Puttappa started to think about the ways to flee from the place. He gulped in the remaining coffee. His mother was baking rotis. Puttappa thought it was the precious time for him to run away. He quickly got up. Without even washing his hands, he jumped out. He then ran into the front yard and disappeared in the fields where other children were playing. His mother saw the empty seat and the 10.5 rotis lying haphazardly on the plantain leaf. She cried out, catch him, Puttu is running. But they did not go in to catch him. They knew he cannot eat, and this only raised a big wave of laughter in the house. After Kuvempu's death, the Karnataka government declared the Kuppali house and its surroundings as a national monument. It also created a trust in his name. The trust is active in facilitating studies in research and nature related issues. ಕುಪ್ಪಳ್ಳಿಯ ಪೆಂಪು ಕನ್ನಡದ ಸೊಂಪು ಕವಿ ಕುವೆಂಪು ಜ್ಞಾನಪೀಠ ಛಾಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಪು ರಾಮಾಯಣ ದರ್ಶನದ ಕಂಪು. ಕುಪ್ಪಳ್ಳಿ's child, Kannadi's pride, Ramayana Darshana's essence brought first Jnanapitha fragrance to Kannada. Thank you. Thank you all viewers for watching. Once again, I thank Dr. Girish Ajakala for giving me an opportunity. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you, ma'am. You have done a wonderful job today. Actually, the motto of our Pradhikara is fulfilled by the way that you have narrated the life and contribution of Kuvempu. As you mentioned in your introduction itself, Kuvempu is a great scholar. As though I am not a student of literature, but being a Kannadiga, everyone knows the great personality and his work, and he is influenced every generation after at least for last five decades. And your introduction to him, at least for non-Kannadiga people, attracted towards his works. You have given a taste of what Kuvempu has actually written. And the way that you have narrated is Ramayana Darshanam and other works. Adds up to you, madam. This is the motivation, the objective of our Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara. And there should be exchange of knowledge between Kannada and non-Kannada linguist people. So the Kannadigas must know the works in other languages. Also, the other language people across the globe also must know the worth of the literary works and other knowledge available in Kannada literature. So your introduction to Kuvempu's work certainly attract many non-Kannada people to read him and inspired by his works. So my bottom of my heart, I thank you very much on behalf of Kuvempu Bhasha Bharati Pradhikara to delivering this lecture, wonderful lecture on Kuvempu's literature. Thank you, ma'am. And I also thank our president, Ajakala Girish Bhatt, to organizing such a wonderful lecture series to introduce non-Kannadiga people about the birth of Kannada literature. It is going to continue for another couple of days. And thank him personally for organizing this series. And I also thank the other members who are supporting his work for organizing this series. And also thank our registrar, Ishwar, for organizing our logistics to make this possible. and also thank all the audience who are now listening, and they have put up a lot of comments and praising words, praising words. And I also thank whoever you share it on your Facebook and WhatsApp, and let us people of across the globe know the works that Kuvempu has done. And I thank you one and all for listening to this lecture. Thank you very much.